Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at how to write an introduction. Now this is actually one of the most important things you'll do this 2 weeks that we've been looking at it. So what I'm going to get you to do is I'm actually going to get you to make a page break. That'll give us a whole section here to write on, and give me the title Introduction. Right? We are actually going to take the information that Mr. Lupus and I have already provided you with here in the first table. We're going to highlight down to purpose of the piece, just this section here for me. Make it yellow. I like yellow. Right? This information here, KCATSVAP, that is your introduction for your APA essay. We're going to spend today and the next lesson looking at KCATSVAP and how to write an introduction. Today you're going to write your introduction, and then we will give you a bit of feedback between now and Friday. And on Friday you're going to fix up any errors that you've made. So the most important things that you do in your introduction are you talk about the context. What is actually happening? Now we're going to use the same article that we've been using, which is the one on the opinion piece on tax on electric vehicles in South Australia and Victoria should would slam brakes on sales, by Trent Zimmerman. We've already got it chunked. We've already started our arguments explaining what they are. We've started our topic sentences, and we've already filled in this information. So the context of the information, guys, you don't have to do it in this order, but you can. The context is that the South Australian government is intending to introduce a tax which will impact the sales of electric cars, going against their emissions goals. The contention is that ultimately this tax will de-incentivize customers and defeats the purpose of the introduction of electric cars. The author is a Liberal Member of Parliament named Trent Zimmerman. We've got our tone: assertive, frustrated, reasoned, condescending, and placating. We know that the source was published in The Guardian Australia in November 2020, and we know that the people that have something to gain from this are manufacturers and users of electric vehicles, as well as members of state. And we know our audience is pretty much people who own and are prospective buyers of electric vehicles, as well as taxpayers and government officials. The purpose of the piece is to encourage the government to bring in incentives rather than disincentives for electric vehicle use and ownership. So I'm going to make this a bit smaller, and I'm going to have to across 2 pages. Hopefully it'll work. No, it's not working. All right, so we always need to make sure that we've included our title. So let's just knock this down to size 15. Guys, I expect you to have about size 12. Size 15 is a bit big, but I thought this way you can see it. All right. Trent. Oh, I don't like the bold either. Guys, I like things to be correct, so let's... Trent Zimmerman, a Liberal Member of Parliament, wrote an article titled... Got to memorize the title. Opinion Tax on... This is how it... Sometimes you have to do it, guys. Electric vehicles in South Australia and... would slam brakes on sales. Right, wrote an article titled, which was published in The Guardian. Guys, check out my awesome use of capital letters. I really expect you to use them. In November of 2020. Following the announcement that both states intend to introduce a new tax on electric vehicles in, that shouldn't be capitalized, I lie, to counter the cost of road maintenance which is not being provided by these car users through petrol prices. This here is my context. Title, author, source. Context, author, source. 3 things done. Now we need to tell the audience what the contention is, the tone, and who this is going to impact and who they want to target it at and what the aim of the piece is. Right, so let's do it. Through reasoned argument, I can't spell today. What's his tone? What did we say? An assertive and the use of an assertive and condescending tone. Zimmerman, note I use his last name, not his first name, purports that, now purports means like puts forward, that this tax will undermine the emissions goal of Parliament, as it will de-incentivize prospective buyers of electric vehicles. Let's fix that bad spelling. Defeating the purpose of their introduction in the first place. Yay for autocorrect. Alright, this is contention. As we go, I'm just sort of making sure I've got it. This is kind of like I said, it's very formulaic. It's ticker box, got to make sure I've got all these things. I've just done my tone, and I've done my contention. Now I'm going to talk about who this impacts, the audience, and the purpose of the piece. By presenting this view as a member of Parliament, Zimmerman addresses his fellow statesmen, or politicians. Let's say politicians. Statesman sounds very American. Of his fellow politicians, encouraging them to take a stance against the proposed bill and instead introduce incentives to owners and buyers of electric vehicles. I just listened to myself say vehicles. My mum taught me that, and she learnt it from her English teacher at school. Sorry, it's a weird thing we do. Alright, so that's the intention. We've got our intention of the piece here. We'll make that blue. It sort of addresses who he's talking to here as well. So this is a bit of that, addressing who you're talking to. these, and then you can finalize with who this is going to impact. These proposed changes to the tax, let's change that. By encouraging change to the suggested tax, Zimmerman addresses the needs of manufacturers of electric vehicles. Manufacturers, helps if I spell it right. Manufacturers, owners, and prospective buyers of electric vehicles, which is intended to encourage economic development in the industry and increase sales of the product in an attempt to improve environmental. Sorry, I sound things out when I spell, guys. It's just a technique I use to improve environmental mental conditions in Australia. I don't like conditions. Improve or implement environmental awareness in Australia. Right. So that is our audience and also a bit further depth in our intention. So we'll make him a lovely ugly green, which I think is actually very pretty, but anyway. And that covers our vested interest. We now have touched on each and every single one of these issues. Now, we haven't gone and given a list of tones as you address each of the arguments. So, for example, placating, he really does that in argument 4. So, in your introduction, you could actually, Zimmerman presents alternative to the conclusion. That's spelled wrong. The conclusion of the article placates the government article. No, let's just change this. So I would address tone in the start of the sentence. In a placating tone, Zimmerman presents alternative options to encourage the use of environment. Yep, so you can just say something like that. So you'd address tone throughout and how it changes. So every time it changes, you should identify that, but that's in paragraphs, so don't stress about that right now. We aren't just going to list all the tones off. We're not going to just copy and paste things out. It needs to be in a sensible, strategic manner. So I'm just going to completely highlight this for you. I'm going to put this on in my link page for you as a bit of a guide. But what I'd like you to do is to give a red hot crack to media release. All right, so you guys need to write an introduction. You've all filled in the table. Don't worry about this one yet. Just down here, I'd like you to write your own introduction for, I can't spell tonight. Your own introduction for media release, a great big tax on not polluting. That is your topic. You should have all the information here. Remember, just down to here, CATSFAP is the acronym that we use. So I would like you please to do that now and submit on link by midnight on the day that you've got class so that you can get feedback by the next day. Alright guys, lovely chatting to you and we'll see you soon.